Don't Get Me Started. This is a conversation about advertising. And here is your host, freelance creative director and creative circus department head, Dan Balser.
Yes, welcome back to another episode of the podcast. First of all, thank you so much for listening. It's been, we're approaching 12 years. We're approaching 300 episodes. And personally, you know what? I'm going to pat myself on the back. I am pretty impressed with myself for having this thing going for as long as it's gone. And I still don't know if anyone's listening. And since you are, I really appreciate you doing that. No, I did know there's 4 people listening. So today we are with a team from Digitas. I don't know what this LBI_US means.
Oh, that's no more. It used to mean Lost Boys International.
Okay, so it's just Digitas Chicago.
Yeah.
Is that what you call it?
Yes.
Digitas in Chicago. We're with Dan Cosgrove, otherwise known as Cos, Senior Art Director. Graduated with a BA from Iowa State. Immediately went to Chicago Portfolio School for Art Direction. Interned at Ogilvy and Euro RSCG, which is now Havas. Did you work on any of that Most Interesting Man in the World stuff?
No, I was at the Chicago Havas where I was doing mailers for Sprint.
Mailers for Sprint.
But close.
Hey, the world runs on
close.
mailers. The world runs on mailers. What is Sprint again? Just kidding. You know what I worked on? I worked on Verizon. You know what? No one knows what that is because Verizon... No, I didn't. I worked on 9X. No one... Yeah, 9X is the one. 9X is now Verizon. See, my brain has already switched it. I worked on 9X. It became Verizon. Since then, Dan has worked at Element 79, DDB, Cavalry, VML, and is currently, like I said, Senior Art Director at Digitas. What happened? There's all sorts of miming going on.
Oh, I was just telling him to watch his hand by his mouth, so not to muffle his...
Oh, yeah. Good call. Yeah. Great call. Hey, see, you're thinking production.
Yeah, I'm looking out for
the
guy.
So, this is great because I don't know if I told this on the podcast. I did one of these with Luke Sullivan.
Okay.
Whipple.
And hey, Whipple, squeeze this. So I was asking him a question, and he was leaning over in his chair with his face to the ground with his hand over his eyes as I'm talking to him. Mm-hmm. And I think he's one of the few people that I've ever had a conversation with on the podcast who was acutely aware in every second that he was making something that people were going to consume in their ears. You know what I mean? Like he was really aware of creating an audio experience. Like he was really concentrating and answering it in a way that I think he was attached to the other end of it, which is in a really cool way. Huh. Also, over his career, Dan has worked on a variety of brands, including Coors, Tyson, Supercuts, American Greetings, PPG. What does PPG stand for? You guys get mentioned. I should know
Pittsburgh Plate and Glass.
Okay.
It's an old company.
Yeah, they coat, airplanes, golf balls, cars, Disney World. They're like a coating company.
Coating company.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Jimmy Dean, they're an internal bodily coating company. They coat your insides.
That's right.
Red's Apple Ale. I just read Jimmy Dean off the piece of paper, people. I'm not making it up. Kellogg's, Wright Brand Bacon, and Glidden. You can see Dan's portfolio at cosgroveportfolio.com on the internet. You can use either of your preferred browsers to find that website. Okay, Mike Epstein is his partner, senior creative, copywriter. His entire summary, I'm going to read it to you. I come up with ideas and write them down. I think we just all owe you a debt of gratitude for the brevity and intelligence of that sentence.
Short and sweet, like
short
me.
And sweet. I'm just going to cut to the chase. The guy worked in as a producer in L.A., has a really cool, interesting production background. In fact, the link on his LinkedIn takes you to his IMDb page, which is pretty cool. But more important than that, he and I are fraternity brothers from the same fraternity at the same college.
Beta Iota.
Beta Iota. It's an Alpha Epsilon Pi Beta Iota chapter. Do you know what Beta... Here's a quiz for you, see if you can figure this one out. What does Beta Iota stand for?
Ooh, I don't know. I wasn't a Greek system guy.
Okay, so it's BI. That's a hint. It's a chapter in Bloomington, Indiana. That's what Beta Iota stands for. And guys, welcome to the Creative Circus. How was the day? Did you guys enjoy yourself so far?
Great to be here. Yeah, you guys have been great hosts. Saw some great books, and then just got done talking to the students. Hopefully, we were well received.
You never know. You never know, do you? You never know.
Yeah. We had a big turnout, but I guess that was mandatory.
Yeah.
I guess we'll check social, log online to see what the kids are saying about
us.
But
see how many LinkedIn.
Tried to paint a real picture about what it's like working in the real world on Glidden Paint Brand.
Mm-hmm. So I have a question for you guys. So you guys are a traditional team in a pretty non-traditional agency doing a lot of non-traditional work. So what does a creative team look like? How did you guys partnership form? And do you guys find yourself collaborating in a bigger team than you might have when you first started your careers?
Yeah, so just a quick history lesson.
Yeah.
Dan and I both went to Chicago Portfolio School, where we met and then kind of went our separate ways. We were friends, but not great friends. And then 2 years ago, my partner bounced for another agency, and Dan happened to...
I happened to be looking.
Yeah, so
I
it
came
just kind of
over.
worked out. Got together, and yeah, been at Digitas since.
You guys work together at Portfolio School? Were you partners at all?
No. Dan was a
we
quarter
ever did.
ahead of me. Yeah, so
Yeah, we were more
you were in the cool crowd.
adjacent, I guess. I think I was in the cool crowd.
Yeah,
thinking back, if I remember right.
I love the friends, but not good friends. It's like my son is in 8th grade, so there's only friends. So are you friends with that kid? Like, no, I know them, but they're not my friend.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, adults would call those also your friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Acquaintances.
does the team? Yeah, they don't know that word yet. So does the team? Is the team broader? Do you guys have creative strategists or media people involved? And how early are they involved in the? I'm just curious about it because as you guys are presenting, there's such a familiarity with you guys' rhythm and your rapport that just reminds me so much of every partner I've ever worked with and every partner I see presenting in class. But I get the sense that the industry is kind of becoming a little bit less linear like that. So what has the experience been at all your jobs, but even specifically now at Digitas when it comes to teams?
Yeah, I think I've always worked in like the traditional partnership, and we do too with Digitas. I mean, me and Mike, we have the activity based working now at Digitas, so we're
yeah.
You have what?
so we got no.
So we moved. We
desks.
recently moved offices. Now we're in the Leo building on Wacker in Chicago. But Publicis Group brought all their Chicago companies into one building, to save rent. And they instituted this thing called ABW, activity-based workstations.
Okay.
So there's no desks. Like you don't have your own desk.
Yeah, you don't
everyone's
have a
got like a
nameplate
little
somewhere.
cubby.
So you're in a Glidden zone or something?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
now you don't
So-
you can sit wherever you want.
you can sit wherever you want, but essentially that just kind of how we sit in the same spot every day. But it speaks to the kind of collaboration question. Everything's open, you have tables, you meet based on like project, so you're always kind of sitting with media people or strategists. So it's really conducive to collaboration, just being able to work with people and not having to go, down a floor to talk to the media people or the strategy people or the tech or data people. Everyone's kind of involved all around the same spot.
Yeah. But that being said, we sit next to each other for 50 hours a week. I mean, you don't really think about that when you're like in school. Like the person you're partnered with is like your professional friend every single day. Mm-hmm. So that's how you get like a familiarity. But even though, as things are kind of changing up and the departments are kind of blending, I think a lot more. Like there's no longer like the media people sit wherever and they do their part and then it comes to us and we do our part. I think all that is kind of broken down. But you still have to have a person that you're familiar with from a thinking standpoint.
Sure,
I mean, when you get thrown in with somebody random, you have like so much catching up to do on like the way you just kind of think together and talk through ideas and stuff like that. So I still think like that's kind of an important part of stuff.
So let's just take it from the Glidden example. So when you guys were when RFP comes in and there's an insight developed and you guys the initial team gets together and when the sort of kickoff or gun is shot in the air to start you guys on thinking of ideas, what is that? Who's involved in that briefing session? Are there, who develops that? Because in the old school way, it would have been a planner and research would have just basically downloaded what they learned to the creative team, and the creative team would go off and then come back and see if it stuck to the wall. How did that differ? Was it like that when you guys started working on that, or on any other project?
Yeah, it's still strategy and planning that are doing that part. It's still...
Are you involved in that at all? Do you like that part of it?
I kind of like that part. Actually, me and Mike just sat in planning last week, actually, where for 2019 for our clients, and it's still the same kind of thing. The clients were basically running us through their brief, which will ultimately go to our strategy department, our planning department, and they'll kind of come back with the brief that gets presented to creative ultimately. But I think that we're actually pretty involved with it at this point. We were talking through stuff. The clients, just in our situation, are pretty open about kind of their goals and what we think we can kind of influence them.
How early in your guys' careers were you like sitting with clients, meeting clients? When did that start for you, and do you enjoy that part of it?
Yeah, like right away.
You were at a small place, right?
Well, out of Chicago Portfolio School, I interned at Draft FCB, which is now just FCB. Didn't really get a lot of client exposure there, and then when I went to a smaller agency, just obviously it's numbers wise, there's only probably like 4 or 6 creatives, so definitely got some quality time there. And then when I went from there to Ogilvy, another big agency, kind of took a step back and wasn't really in interaction with the clients. But I think it's huge as far as just getting buy-in and comfort level with the clients of kind of pushing the ideas and trusting them. And, I like being in part of the planning process is because the more like a business and kind of like where they're coming from, where their heads are at, like their goals, as far, we're all about like views and shares, but, they're trying to sell like gallons of paint. So just the more you can get ingratiated in your client's business, just the more you're going to understand the problems and be able to serve up better creative that could actually like impact sales.
Yeah. I mean, that's why we made such a point of talking about that when we were talking to the students earlier. I think I was the same way with Mike, where I was at a place called Element 79 for my first job.
Yeah, part of it.
And it was, at the time, it was pretty big. It got merged into DDB eventually, but that was, you could kind of, when you're a junior team, you get kind of trotted out every once in a while and you get to show work. And the more senior you get, the more you kind of get involved with clients. But we wanted to hammer in that point that when you get to be in front of clients a lot more, and you start to have that relationship, it's so much easier to get good work done. It's so much easier to kind of sell work through.
I never thought of it as the opposite side of the coin, where it's easier to sell work when the client feels like they're part of the solution. The same way it's easier to come up with good work when you are part of the problem, or understand, not only you're part of the problem, but you're in the problem with them, and you have that relationship. It just makes the whole process go a little smoother. I do have a question about digital technology. So we used to have a class here at school called Digital Trends, and someone would come in every week and spend an entire class, and it was like an open class that anyone in school, a lot of teachers went. I used to love to go to it, where they would present like what's possible in blank. And I remember went to one where it was all about mobile, everything that's happening now in tech with mobile. Do you guys have like technologists or people that are kind of turning you on to, or is it even the platforms coming to you guys to show you what's possible? And how do you know, even in the presentation, Cos, you were like talking about the different formats of images on Facebook, and you just rattle them off like it was second nature to you. So how do you guys stay on top of what's possible from the tech side in execution? Yeah,
I think it's, sorry to cut you off, but I think it's easier at the bigger shops than probably at the smaller shops, because in our space right now, there's actually rooms for Facebook and Twitter and everything, so they can come in to present work.
Cool. Yeah, on the 21st floor, there's a Google room, an Adobe room, a Facebook room, I think a YouTube room. So like they're there to like answer questions. But also, Digitas just has a great technology department. So like every month, every couple of weeks, they have like a presentation with just kind of like emerging platforms or tech.
With a name like Digitas, you
kind of got to have digital chops. So they do a good job of keeping everyone honed in. But as a creative, it's kind of like your responsibility. Like you gotta. That's kind of part of your job to like be up on that stuff, and not for like just gimmick's sake, but like technology can really like make an idea pop, and it's not just about helping it reach more people or whatnot. Like technology can be the idea, so you really got to know your shit.
Have you been a nerd like that? Do you stay up on like who's doing what and what's possible? I mean, do you do that personally? I've always found that to be tedious.
It is, but you got to know what's out there. You got to know what other people are doing. It's gotten harder lately because I keep getting this firewall from Adweek and creativity.
You got to pay. See,
I know, so I got to like reset my Safari.
You got to empty your cache.
Can you get your login info?
Yeah, I'll give it to you afterwards. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's the cool thing is the school does pay for me to have Adweek and the Ad Age subscription, so I get to see creativity online. And I say it's tedious. I really do look. Full disclosure, this is how I look at the work. So the first thing I do is click on it and look and see who I know in the credits every time.
Oh yeah.
And then I'll watch the stuff. But it's that part's fun. I'm really kind of talking more about like how would you even know that whatever platform is now capable of sort of whatever, even stuff like knowing where because one thing the reason I'm talking about this is that I think portfolios have to demonstrate that kind of stuff. Don't you want kids that know that like it's not just on your phone because you have one. It's on your phone because your phone knows what the weather is, where you are, where you've been, what you've been looking at, right? So these things are all really important. And in order to create new ideas, I feel like it's important to know what's going on. That's great. I'm still sitting here in my head. I'm talking, but my brain is stuck on this Google and YouTube room in the office. That doesn't. Now that you said it, it's like, yeah, of course they fucking have that. I mean, how much money do they have?
I don't know.
Yeah. So I mean, a lot of it's great. Brands
awesome.
are always trying to be the first to like. You see a lot of people like hacking the Instagram or hacking YouTube.
Yes.
Well, yeah, I think if you look at, so we just did a presentation to the clients 2 weeks ago, on is kind of going through work that we thought was good, and we were going through a lot of the stuff that had just won awards, and based on what we're hoping to do this next year too. But when we started looking at stuff, a lot of those ideas that won a lot of stuff are kind of tied to interesting like technology plays or different media plays. And if you weren't paying attention to that stuff, you never could have had that idea in the first place. Exactly. I mean, you can write a 30-second spot, fine, but you can come up with a spot that messes with, the skip button on YouTube or some new technology in Instagram if you're not paying attention to what other people are doing. As tedious as it sometimes is to kind of like look at awesome work when you're trying to come up with something for the first time or whatever. If you do pay attention to that stuff, though, you're like that much more ahead when you actually get to come up with stuff.
Yeah, it's a great strength at Digitas, too. It's not just the tech, but like media and social, they're always coming up or, keeping us in the loop on what's new and what. There's just so much to keep up on. So it's good to have departments that are like kind of, that's their job to fill us in. So
yeah, we actually have a tech lab at Digitas, too. It sounds exciting. It's pretty cool when you walk into it, but...
Are you being sarcastic? I think it sounds cool.
No, it's legit.
You can go in and talk to Alexa and talk to Google Home and...
Yeah, there's like 3D
Siri
printing.
Different so that's where like the nerds hang out.
Yeah.
But
somebody had an idea in class this week.
Nerds are cool, by the way. Sorry.
Yeah, really. This is a really nerdy idea for BattleBots, the TV show, where the commercial would come on and it would challenge Siri to a fight like via robot.
Oh, that's good.
It is a good idea.
I think it works though because you have to hit your button to get Siri to activate, but it was such a cool idea.
It would have, that's kind of like the Burger King thing. When that thing came out, I was like, that was up for grabs for any brand. I mean, they did it first.
What are you talking about?
The spot where it said, okay, Google, and it triggered the Wikipedia page.
Yeah.
I think they've like made it so that doesn't happen anymore. But that's an awesome.
Yeah, it was cool because what I loved about that was that they tied it to like fighting robots, right? And so that's why it worked. It wasn't just arbitrarily leveraging into what's possible.
It's tied into the idea.
Yeah, really cool.
Yeah, but I guarantee Burger King, whatever agency did that, has a relationship with Google, and a creative probably was like, "Hey, can we do this?" And they were just the first to do it. And that oftentimes. You just got to be the first to do something. It might not be the most original idea, but as long as you're the first to do it, you can kind of hang your hat on that.
Yeah, and sometimes you just got to ask. Google was probably like, you get to do it one time, and then like, we're going to shut this down. But sometimes you just got to ask, whatever media partner it is, and see if they'll let you do it.
No one in my class this week had heard of subservient chicken.
Oh yeah,
and that was talking about hacking the internet. That's like, let's use the internet to do this thing.
Yeah.
If you don't know what subservient chicken is, just Googleize subservient chicken. All right, so I got three questions for you guys. We'll make this really easy. So, just because there's enthusiasm from you guys that I find refreshing. Mm-hmm. So, what's the most fun that you've had? Let's just say since you guys have been together the last couple of years at Digitas, what's been the most fun day or the most fun that you guys have had? Can you remember a really great day?
Oh man, we have fun every day.
There you go.
Yeah. No, we enjoy each other's company. But as far as experience, production's always fun. Just kind of being in the trenches with someone.
Are you good at being in the moment in production, like of being like keeping a keen eye on are we getting what we wanted to get?
That's what I love. I mean, I used to work in production. Like that's one of my favorite times is being able to go in production. And oftentimes you'll see people that they'll write the spot and then go on production, and then they'll just sit back in the craft services and just hang out all day. Like I write those so I can go on production and like be in the nitty gritty and like have a say in like in things. And a lot of times, directors now they have to be super collaborative. They can't just like shut you out and say go over there. So like you can have a say on camera angles.
Do you have secret desires to do more than advertising with that?
Make but
movies?
One day we'll see. I'm always noodling ideas. Every copywriter has a script half written. Or
you guys familiar with the thing that Prayer and Odell did for Red Bull years ago? The Unflinching Triumph, the Philip Rockhammer story about the National Stare Down Championship.
No, I don't think so.
It was like an 8-part miniseries film that they found directors and everything. The writer starred in it, and it actually won like awards, and it was this thing that they put together and pitched to Red Bull, and Red Bull was like, they made it anyway. I think they just made it even before they got approval, and it showed it was an 8-part film that was like, I'd say they're 4 or 5 minute movies. They showed the product for about, and Rob Lambrex, if I'm doing this wrong, let me know. I'm sorry. I think they showed the product for something like 7 or 8 seconds in the entire thing. But their entire core promise is like hyper-focus. Was like what Red Bull was about. So they made this crazy film, and it almost looked like this was a guy who just always wanted to write a script and produce a movie with himself in it. And it was really, it was good. But it was like, this is the kind of thing that like, if I were a guy who loved production and writing scripts, I would constantly be looking for, is there a way for me to hack advertising to get this thing done?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it was like a year ago or something, some production company, it was like a great ad for them. Like during, like on every project they worked on, they were getting paid for by actual clients. At every like production, they would shoot a scene. So like over like 2 years,
that's awesome.
They shot a scene at like each production, and like they made a movie of each of those scenes.
Fucking cool is that?
Yeah, what a good
I'll
idea.
have to find it. I'll send it your way once I find it.
Yeah.
So Dan, what's been the most fun?
Most fun. I mean, Mike already took production, which took my thunder away. But I do think, like when we were down in Nashville shooting that stuff
For Glidden,
the actual production stuff is fun, but the dinners and doing stuff with clients and everybody from the agency who you see every day, but you see them every day at work. It's kind of different to be out at dinner together. You're not like on vacation or whatever, but it does put everybody in kind of like a fun situation where you're all hanging out together in kind of a different light than work. But we have a pretty good time every day, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's great.
I mean, we're pretty committed to cracking this Mueller case.
Oh, we spend a lot of. We don't spend any time at work, but we spend time on our free time.
Oh man, we're pretty tuned into that.
The Mueller case.
Yeah, we're gonna crack it.
I have faith. I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's taken us longer than we thought.
This is a completely unrelated question. Let's say you guys were here to hire, let's say a junior team's coming in under you guys to help support everything you guys are doing on Glidden next stage, year 3. Mm-hmm. What's the best way for those juniors to endear themselves to you?
Well, I think the first...
I'm not talking about getting hired. You've hired them.
Oh, we've hired them.
Yeah.
They're hired?
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Huh.
Think about it for a second then.
I think just passion and enthusiasm, and just when you're young, like there's no reason you should not be like the hardest working person in the office. Mm-hmm. Like I see a lot of juniors that just kind of float or coast or like waiting for opportunities to come to them.
I think I did that.
No,
I think that was a mistake I made early in my career. I waited for stuff to come.
I made the same mistake.
Yeah.
And you get discouraged if opportunities don't come your way, or woe is me.
Yeah.
And you got to like go out and grab those opportunities. You got to show them that you're hungry to take on more work. And so when they can do that, that's when I'm like, okay, I like working with this person.
That's really interesting though, because Dan laughed when I said I did that, because I wasn't saying I coasted when I was young. I said I didn't look for more opportunities. So when I had a project, and I'm all in. I'm 100%. Mm-hmm. Like this is it. I mean, like I never slacked, but in the bigger picture, I think I did. So if we had something approved, or we had a client meeting or something, we'd just come back to the office from. Early in my career, I made the mistake probably of not saying what else can we work on. And I just don't think that's something that I would have thought to do. Something that I think is, but from your perspective now, is guys that are supervising a junior team. That's huge.
Yeah.
Like, that's what can make your career.
Well, I think it's tough when you get into a place. I mean, I think it's hard to do that stuff when you get into a place, because you're walking into.
I didn't say it was easy.
Yeah, the point I was thinking was, you walk into a situation as a junior team where you would be working with me and Mike, and we've been on this brand for 2 or 3 years or whatever, and we have all this kind of like inherent knowledge about what we've done, what the clients won't do, what kind of work they don't want to do, whatever. Mm-hmm. So you have no idea of that when you come in for the first time. And agencies are filled with like a lot of big personalities in an agency, most of which think that they have like the answer or whatever too. So if you're just out of school, I think it's, you just got to kind of find that confidence to start throwing ideas up. But it's it's tough to like walk into a place with a bunch of folks that have been doing this for 10 years that all think they have the answer. And you have to kind of stick up for yourself and try to get an idea kind of inserted into that conversation to get considered.
Yeah, agencies can be really cliquey. And they're, like creative directors will have like their, chosen ones who they, go to in a bind. So really it's just being aggressive and, you're not trying to step in people's toes, but just let them know that you're there to work. Like, you're 23 years old. Like, there's no reason you shouldn't be the hardest working person in there.
Yeah, right. And optics. Don't go home like at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, you don't have kids at home or whatever.
Oh, man. That's the worst. Right. Be like, oh, half day?
Yeah.
Like, it's 5:30.
Right. What personal trait of yours, each of you, do you think has served you well so far in your career? Mike, what do you think it's been about you that has been a sword or shield?
I think my self-deprecating humor.
Yeah?
Yeah. You gotta,
I think so.
Gotta have like a thick skin, be able to roll with the punches, and you're gonna throw out some bad ideas. You're gonna get some bad reactions to those ideas, but just kind of rolling with it.
So you've never been a cocky guy? I don't see it.
No?
Cocky? No.
I wouldn't say I'm cocky.
No, I'm saying no.
Yeah.
Like the opposite.
Yeah. I mean, I'm obnoxious. I've been told I can be a little obnoxious, but I think it's all in good jest, and I'm not an asshole. I'm nice to people, and I think that really goes
matters.
It goes a really long way, because like nowadays, so many, everyone's super talented, and like, so you can't be a jerk, because that just doesn't fly.
It's a popular answer, I think, and it's a popular answer to the question in a true way. I think it's true for a lot of successful people.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I've always tried to be a nice guy. I think you're just setting yourself up for a way tougher career if you're going to be a jerk. I mean, you have to be. Is
that your number one trait, though? Is that the thing?
I would say trying to be a nice guy would be an important thing I try to get. I think I'm always
you have to get
cordial to be around.
You have to pick another one.
I got to pick another one?
Yeah.
Mike, you got to stop answering all these questions first.
You already got that one. You don't have to. But I like to see what
I'll think of another personal trait for you.
You got a lot of good ones.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be partners with you if you didn't have a ton of them.
Yeah. Well, okay. I always think I don't know if this sounds dumb or not, but I think, you get in a lot of situations where you're dinner with clients or stuff like that. Just being a more, interesting person is an important thing to talk about.
Huge.
Like, you got to pay attention to, like, whether it's, if you only want to talk about sports, that's fine. We certainly spend a lot of time talking about sports, but just like knowing what's going on in the news, just being a sharp person, like watching documentaries or whatever you want to do, or reading stuff, and just like having some interest to you or some depth to you beyond just like want to talk about advertising, number one.
So
that's just being like a good dinner guest.
You are
what you eat. And those are two.
Like I have a Tumblr Mind Buffet, and really it's just putting just everything that like I put into my brain, from weird Netflix shows to just random stuff I see in the street to illustration to, it's really just like feeding your brain everything you can possibly put in there. It's only going to make your ideas better.
Mm-hmm. How interesting is this, that advertising success is judged? It's that answer no one ever says, because I'm pretty good at it. I'm a really good, solid designer. I'm a really good writer. No, it's always about the traits that make people want to collaborate with you.
Yeah.
I'm nice. I'm interesting. Right? And I think that there's so much an emphasis when people are training this business that it's all about how good you are. It's kind of about how good you are more than how good you are at something. So I just don't think that's kind of enlightening. I think that's interesting. The kind of person you bring to work every day is almost more important than the work you bring.
Yeah, you also just got to be able to find the interesting in everything. You get a lot of briefs. You could work on some insurance, like Snorefest, but like being able to find like an interesting angle on that.
Yeah, some guys in Virginia did some pretty funny stuff for insurance. So I mean, it can be done.
Yeah.
Yeah. For sure.
They have some media dollars too.
They have a few media dollars. They have a few media dollars. So knowing what you know now, if you could go back to the day you walked out of Chicago Portfolio School, knowing what you know now about the career or life in general, what would you whisper in young Mike and or Dan's ear? What would you say to yourself? Let's start with Dan since Mike's out.
Yeah, Mike keeps taking all the good answers, going first.
What would you say to yourself starting out that you wish you had known?
Well, I wish I would have tried to, if I was going back to the beginning of my career, I think I wish I would have tried to get onto more, kind of the more interesting projects. And as you start to, as you do work, you can for sure go in every day and just kind of do the work you're supposed to do. And, that's good. They're going to keep paying you to come in there. But I wish earlier on I would have been more conscious of how that was, of the kind of work I was doing, how it was getting viewed like in the kind of the agency world. It made more of a focus, at least when I was right out of school, to try to, I guess, volunteer to be on projects that agencies were pushing more in like the award game and stuff like that. Because I think, now you get, the higher up you get, the more conscious you get of, how kind of accolades and stuff like that are perceived when you're in the agency. I wish earlier on I would have been more conscious of like the importance of volunteering to be on that kind of stuff, or throwing in on a pitch or something like that. Not that I didn't throw in pitches, but just kind of being more cautious, I think, of
playing the game.
Yeah, playing the game, just seeing how it works.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of politics in agency life, and in a big agency, you can get lost in the shuffle, and like those extracurricular things of like I've gotten stuck working on like the summer party, like it's a huge thing at Digitas. Spend a lot of money and like put on a show and stuff, but like those are opportunities to get. Yeah, it's a lot of fun, but on top of your other work, sometimes it's not as fun. But it's a great opportunity to get in front of senior leadership, work with HR, admin people who you never deal with, and just see people, get FaceTime with people so they know who you are. Yeah. So when you're campaigning for a raise or a promotion, 6 months, a year down the line, they know who you are, and know you're willing to kind of jump in and do the extracurricular work for the health of the agency.
Yeah, my second job, the creative director gave me the job, and I got to do it all 3 years I was there, of writing like the holiday party there was friggin' epic. To write the holiday party, 'twas the night before Christmas, with every person in the agency's name in it. So it's kind of like we get to roast or call out every single person. Yeah. And it was like one of those moments that like everybody knew me from that, because like I worked on it. Like I took it seriously. Yeah. It was like I found that in an old computer, and I was like, oh my God, this is so, I'd forgotten all of it. It was so funny.
How funny.
Yeah. And it gives you an opportunity to kind of flex your creative chops that you might not be able to,
or screw up and be a human being, or whatever. Right.
Well, that's all kind of ingratiating to the agency. You just got to kind of do more than what you're just like straight up assigned to do.
Yeah. If I could go back and tell younger Mike, I would say start on Propecia, right immediately.
I had a partner in Publicist New York who says to me, he's from New Jersey, goes, "Hey, you'd be a good candidate for Rogaine." And I'm like, he's completely bald. But we were trying to have a baby. I'm not fucking touching that shit, because that's, if a woman touches the box, you have defective children. So I'm not putting that stuff on my hand. You see how I ended up. You got good hair still. Okay,
you're doing the best of anybody on the podcast right now, which is nice.
But so after the hair loss thing, just work harder.
What does that mean?
Similar to what you were saying, is where like you kind of you did your job, and then that's all that's expected of you,
right?
Whereas like you don't have a wife and a family yet, you don't live in the burbs and have like real burb problems and real burb bills. Jumping in wherever you can help, and like letting your presence be known.
You know what I often say? I say, don't work harder, work more. Because I think work harder means you're supposed to think harder or some shit. You just get constipated and you're gripping the bat too hard or whatever. Yeah. Just do more stuff. Just do stuff. Just make
I like the way to think about it. Yeah. You have so much more time when you're like junior copywriter or whatever.
Yeah. And like,
you don't have anything else going on. You should just really be jamming on stuff.
I don't even know what free time is anymore.
Right. You think you do when you're younger, because you think that playing FIFA is important to. No, man, that's time you could have stayed an extra hour.
Find other hobbies, like just be interesting. Like take improv classes.
Yeah.
Try stand up.
Dude, this is important for everyone. So we had a meeting this morning with the high school principal with my 8th grader going into high school, and he says to my son, like, "So what are you into besides soccer?" 'Cause my son's all soccer. He stared at the Glidden wall for a good 20 seconds before he said, "I like to read." It's like, man, and we get in the car afterwards, and my wife said, "It's so good for someone other than us asking him, what are you into besides soccer? Because that's what's going to define you, and you have to start thinking about it when you're 13. And if you're not 13, you're 20, 23, start thinking about it."
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, reading's a good one, but like, what authors? Why?
Oh,
what do you like about them? You know?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, you got to have something to talk about. You spend a lot of time talking to people.
Guys, thanks so much for talking to,
Is that it?
to my listeners. What else do you want to talk about?
I don't know. I was hoping you had like
So
more
easy,
hard-hitting questions. Put me on the spot.
I do want to say one thing before we quit. I did a podcast a while back with Jeff Kling, who I just was so inspired by, and I just finished listening to Omid Farhang's Talking to Ourselves podcast with Jeff. And anyone who's in the business who wants to hear the backstory of some of the great ad campaigns of the last 15 years, check out Omid's podcast. It's so damn good, and you can find it on oneclub.org. It's in there with mine, but it looks different, and it's really, really good. It's Talking to Ourselves, Omid Farhang. I'm trying to think of another question to ask you guys. What are you excited about now? What are you looking forward to? What's your oh, you know what? Former student who's an instructor and career director in Atlanta now hates the term pain point. She calls it out on social media as like one of those douchey terms. But what is either right now the number one thing you're trying to solve or the number one thing you're most excited about? Your number one pain point or your number one like jumps gets you out of bed?
Like work or like everything?
No, everything's good. We talked about work a lot. It can be work related.
Oh man. It's gonna sound cheesy, but just being a better husband, a better dad.
Takes work, dude.
Yeah, I have two young girls. I commute to the city like almost 2 hours every day, like there and back, not each way. So just like being able to like do good work, but then being able to put that aside and being present at home and being in the moment.
And Jeff talks about that on that Omid podcast, by the way. It's a very appropriate comment.
And I think the better you are at kind of compartmentalizing like life and work is just better, because like you need time for when you're working on stuff. You need time for your brain to shut off and like let those ideas kind of marinate on their own.
Right. You need friends that aren't in advertising.
Absolutely.
And that's what I was often say about my son. It's like, I made a friend, literally. And like, he doesn't care about advertising. It's good to like have something to decompress.
Well,
with.
yeah, you kind of got to get away from the business every once in a while. If you're just in it all the time, I think you get a little tired.
Well, yeah, you get in that bubble where,
just talking about
why we ended up with Trump. Everyone was just in their bubble assuming all was right in the world, and they didn't talk to their neighbor.
You want to talk about politics? Here's my take on politics, and this is all I'm going to say because I've never done it. I think that people in America take for granted the United States of America and democracy. I think that you look at the Roman Empire. Paris was a Roman settlement. There's still ruins from there's bathhouses and amphitheaters from an empire way greater than our country that's gone.
Way longer.
So we need to I think we need to take care of our democracy. And I don't think people have taken it for granted because they've never been in a war. They've never had to fight in a war. They don't realize how tenuous this thing actually is. And that's my only thing I'm going to say.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, that's reflected in like the percentage of people that vote. It's like ridiculous.
I voted today.
Nice.
Yeah. Did you?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I think it's like the lowest percentage or close to it of like any kind of democratic country.
Israeli expats who are in the U.S. fly overnight to Tel Aviv to vote and get on the plane and come right back to work the next morning.
Yeah.
98% of Israelis vote in their elections.
Yeah, when we say like be human and don't be an asshole, it's not just talking about like work and advertising. It's kind of
care about your
in general. Like, just there's no need for us to be so divided right now.
We don't have common beliefs. Thank you guys for talking.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
Good to talk to you.
I appreciate that very much. You know what? Use the internet to find everybody, and I'll talk to you guys again in 2 weeks. Guys, thanks again so much.
Our pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Listeners, thank you for listening. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Thanks. Bye.
That's great.
Awesome.
I'm going to have to start my own podcast.